Hey everybody, it's here finally, the new horizon, World Wrestling Behavior Belt. Please be on the lookout for our Behavior Belt winners. All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 3. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about our verbal behavior program. Really, this is what we run in our MDS classrooms. So, verbal behavior is more than just a program, it's about learning how to communicate. So, really, we're looking to teach our kids how to communicate their wants and needs. Now, when we look at communication, we really need a speaker, so someone who's talking, and somebody to listen. If you don't have a speaker and a listener, then you do not have communication. So, really, our purposes of words rather than their structure. We're looking at putting um, meaning to those words, not a simple like structure of a sentence or how we string our words together. So, really, our main goal is to teach that meaningful communication to our students. There are many ways to communicate, and a lot of people have different ways to communicate. But really, if you don't have anybody that understands it, you aren't communicating. So we're really stressing the value of that communication with our students. Um, one big thing that we look at is that there are different ways that we say things that change the purpose. So this is a bottle, correct? Well, I could say water. Does that mean I want water? Does that mean I see water? So we're kind of looking at different ways and how we change those meanings. So what we're gonna do in this little episode is just kind of talk of some different ways, some simple terminology, and kind of show you what we go through in our process in our MDS classrooms. All right, the first part that we have that we really need to look at are our verbal operands. You don't have to memorize or know the word operant. The big difference here is these are the types of structures that we use to teach the communication pieces to our students. We're going to go through each one real quick, and I'll give you a little example on how to memorize or how to identify. The first one I always talk about is one of the most important ones, in my opinion, is a mand. When we look at manding, we look at how we request something or how we command or demand. I like to use the analogy of a cookie. You see a cookie, I want a cookie. Or you say cookie, that means I want it, and then we give it. So we don't always use food or different things like that, but how we teach students is we look at something that's extremely reinforcing to them and we pair that with a term. So it could be a sign, it could be vocalization. So say it is a cookie. We would hold it, we would look at them, we would prompt them, and we would say cookie. We'd wait for them to say it, and then we give it to them. And when we praise them for communicating that. So really, think of it as a mand is that it's I want something, I say it, I receive it. All right. The next part that we look at is called a tact. A tact is about labeling. So this, let's use the cookie again. You see a picture of a cookie, and I say, what is it? You point and go, cookie. So think about when you're walking through the store or you're going somewhere and you see something you want to like, hey, look at that. That's tacting. Hey, look at that toy on the shelf. Um, that's tacting. So you see something, you say it. You're labeling it or giving it its name. After that, we look at intraverbals. So intraverbals are where we start getting into communication skills. Um, Basic communication, we can get to fill in the blanks. So milk and cookie. One, two, three. Those are very basic intraverbal skills. Where we really want to get the students is that, what's your name? My name's Zach. You're getting into that communication where it's a back and forth and it's reciprocal. We also have echoics. So echoics are when we repeat what someone else is saying. So if I say cookie, the student will say cookie. We're trying to teach them to repeat that sound. And all right, our next part is for imitation. When we look at our imitation skills, we're looking at motor imitation. So we might ask a student, do this, and we want them to repeat that process. It might be a sign like, do this. The reason why we start a lot of this is because, one, we're looking at seeing, is sign a possibility for them, and can they do the motor imitation to sign for certain things like apple, candy, cookie, drink. Um, Another reason we look at motor imitation is because that is what we use to prompt some of our higher level skills. So there could be dual reasons that we look at this program. Finally, we have our listener responding. So at this point, we're teaching students how to follow directions. A lot of times you might see a bunch of cards on the table or a bunch of items, and we would say, show me cookie or touch car. And we would want them to go over and touch the picture. We're really looking at the students to make sure they're receiving the information we're saying and processing and then selecting the correct item. I do have a nice little graphic that I'm going to post so you don't have to look at my face the whole time, that kind of talks about the cookie and how we break up the different types of the meaning of the word. So it'll help give you a little visual of what we're talking about. All right, so here's the big part. How does this look in our classrooms? Well, the first thing, if you would walk into our building in the first couple weeks of school, you're going to go, what is going on in these classrooms? These kids are just running around having fun, playing with adults. Well, that is the first step to this process. The first thing we want to do is make sure that our staff are paired with fun and good things. We want to make sure that our students want to be near our staff. Um, and that if I'm near them and I'm doing things, that good things are going to come from us. So really, we're working on pairing that school, we're pairing the staff, and we're pairing the room with good things. So really, you'll see a lot more pairing with our kiddos at first, and then we slowly add work in. We do this in a very strategic way. It's not all at once for everybody. Some students are ready to work day two. Some students take a week, some take a month. But really, we're just trying to reinforce that student for being with us and wanting to be by us. For a lot of our kiddos coming in, being like kindergarten age, that's a big process because if we don't pair with them, they're not going to want to come into our building and they're not going to want to work for us. This is the first time a lot of them have been in school, so we really want to make sure it's a positive approach. Because if not, you can see some negative effects during work times and even coming into the building. So we really want to make sure that we build strong relationships with our students. Once we're paired with our students and we get everything, we use something called the VB map. We usually have help through the state and from our behavior staff and myself, and we kind of work on mapping our students. We try to assess them. Everybody gets assessed twice a year at least. We ask them those questions based on the man's tax, listener responding, those things like that, and then we fill out our VB map. Once the VB map is filled out, this will give us the curriculum for our students. It will help us see what skills they have and what skills they need. The one thing we always talk about in our rooms, especially when it becomes with students with behaviors or any type of behavioral interventions or reinforcement that we do in our school, we look at the ABCs of behavior. So that's antecedent, what happens before, the behavior itself, and the consequence. So that's kind of how I break this down too. And again, I'll put a little picture up there so you can see. So a mand, remember, you want something, the behavior is you ask for it, and then the consequences you're directly reinforced by getting that cookie or that whatever you asked for. For a tact, it might be something like a stimuli. So it could be a sensory, it could be a smell, it could be a taste, you could hear somebody, you can see somebody with one, and you say cookie. Now, there's no really specific reinforcement for that. So what we do is we give students, high fives, verbal compliments, praises. Every so often they'll get a break or a reward for it. Um, Intraverbals, again, it's a verbal stimuli, so it could be something like, "What do you like to play?" "I like to play with cars." Or they could say, "What do you want to eat?" And they sign cookie or say cookie.
Hey everyone, so sorry for the weird angle, but I thought the best way to do this now would be to show you our card source. So these are the cards that we use when we are teaching in our role behavior program. Some of our students are ready for cards and they go right to them. These are students that are able to tact or do listener responding. Um, so we use a language builder set, which is 350 noun cards. These cards are for like everyday items that students can run into throughout their life. Now, for our little kiddos that aren't ready, we use objects. So we might use a real phone, pens and pencils, water bottles, balls, cups, anything that they can use that has real life context. Um, what I'm going to do in this round is kind of talk to you about the IT sessions or intensive teaching. Really, it's just a way to teach. What we do is we kind of teach airlessly. We want to make sure the kids get it. We want to make sure they know what it is. And then if they do have an error, we want to correct it real quick and then give. All right, so when we teach using our IT session, there's a couple things. I'm not going to break down the whole system for you just because it could take a long time, but really I want to show you, okay, how we tact. So when we are working with kids on tacting, we're really holding a card up going, what is it? Apple, nice job. You know, what is it? Car. We would move on. What is it? Car. What is it? Shoe. What is it? Cookie. So that's how we would work on tacting. Now, with our kids, when we would have this, they might only have two or three cards that are their targets when they have pictures. The rest of them are going to be their knowns. So when we're working on their knowns, we might be moving a little faster. What is it? Car. Great. What is it? Apple. What is it? Car. What is it? Shoe. Nice job. And then we would reinforce. So really when we're looking at these kids, we're looking at a ratio where we're going to reinforce them. And it might be after every three answers, might be after every five, but really we want to keep it around there so we can get them a lot of reinforcement. Some of our kids don't need a lot of reinforcement, so we make those gaps a little bit bigger. Some need a lot of reinforcement, so we try to shrink it. Um, for a lot of our kiddos that still are having a hard time sitting or are just new to school, we might do a VR of two. So they answer two, we reinforce them, and then we move back to work. The reinforcements could be things like tickles, squeezes, maybe a song that they like. I know I used to use my cell phone a lot and go and would play some songs. And then when it would be done, I have it, and then we would get back to work. So really, when we're looking at reinforcing, we have to look at what is reinforcing to the student. So we're trying to get some ideas, try to use toys, sensory items, sometimes little snacks. So that's another part that we usually look at when we're assessing for the VB map. The other thing we really look at is that for certain items, we have different pictures. Now, we want to teach a kid this is an apple, but an apple doesn't always look like this, correct? So we also look at, I know this is cut in half, but it's also an apple. This might look a little different with coloring. It's still an apple. You take a bite out of it, it's still an apple. Just like there are multiple types of cookies. An Oreo is a cookie. A chocolate chip cookie is still a cookie. Everything looks a little different, but it's still a cookie, or it's still an airplane or a car. So that's one thing too we're looking at, that we're not just teaching that this is an apple and it's always an apple. Apples can look different. Um, so that's another way that we try to show our students, how to generalize across multiple settings and different items. All right, we look at our listener responding or receptive language. We're looking at, can the student take in the information we're saying, they process it, and then show us. So if we're using our cards for that, what we do is we'll go touch cat, and we want our students to touch cat. Now, what we'll do is if it's a known target, or I'm sorry, if it's unknown, we will just tell them touch cat. Great. We might switch them, move them around, maybe add another picture and go, okay, show me car. Nice job, buddy. Great work. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. When we're working on a new skill, we never want to place it in the same place. So, say apple is new. We go touch apple. First, we are going to prompt them touch apple, and then they'll touch. Our next thing, we're going to start switching and go touch apple, have them find it and touch it. We might say clap, do this. And then now we're switching while they're doing it and we're going, all right, show me apple. And we really want them to touch apple. Now, the reason why we switch everything around is because some kids that we've seen in the past, if the right answer might always be on their right side or it might always be on their left. So they start preferencing like they might know it, but they're always going to pick the right one because that's where they're used to the right answers to be. Or they might always pick the left one because that's where they always think that their right answer is going to be. So that's why we switch them up just to make sure they don't get these side preferences. Um, the other thing with this that we can do with our cards is matching. Now, we don't do this a lot because a lot of our other techniques that we use in our classrooms work on matching skills. But with our multiple exemplars, we can say match cat, and the student can either take the card and match it, or they can point. All right, now I know some of you are thinking, well, Zach, what if this isn't appropriate for all of the kiddos? Heard it before, and honestly, that's sometimes correct that maybe the students aren't ready for our language builders, but that doesn't mean they're not appropriate for this program. So our students that come in that are not ready for card sorts, we usually go to objects. Now, we work on sometimes, which is called LRCs, which is something as a listener respond in context. It might be where a student is always given a cup and always given a pencil. And when they see the cup, it means put in. We don't have to say anything. We can just say, we might say put in because we want to pair that language, but really the cup is what signals them to do this. So every single time they see these two together, they know they put in. At that point, we're just trying to build those easies for the kids, something to get them so they're not frustrated and they can do the work. And from just this little task, we can add a lot. We are pairing our voice with saying put in. Now we're working on put. So now if they hear put, we're hoping down the road that they see this ball and a cup, we can say put in, and they are able to do that. So we're really going to take that contextual of those two items and then try to broaden their communication by putting our own language over top, because we know a lot of times that some of these words, these phrases are very foreign to our kids, and that's what we're trying to put meaning behind that and context behind those words. Now, some of our students are well past that, but they still need a little bit of help. So what we do is we work on our LRs using these items. It might be working on spin, and we have our kids spin. We could use a ball and say, show me rolling or roll. And they know they see it, they roll. We work on using cups sometimes as stack, and that's really all we need. So we're building those languages using these objects. And once we get these items and them to perform how we need with the items, we can move forward to picture cards and some different higher level techniques for our students. In this section, what I really want to talk about is why does this matter and what can we do at home with our VB training? So one big thing I always talk to parents about when it comes to verbal behavior training is what they could do at home to help further the education or even just practice and generalize these skills. The one thing I really stress to parents is start having your students ask for more items. Um, a lot of our kids sometimes will just walk into the kitchen, grab what they want, walk out. even if they're not supposed to. So the one thing I always tell parents is start putting up that little bit of a barrier and make them ask. So if they want a snack, and they go in and they find an item and you're with them, before they just grab it, you make them label it. So, well, hey, what would you like? Fruit snacks. Fruit snacks. There you go, buddy. Nice job. So you want to add that little extra communication. Now, at the end of the day, really what we're looking for is to take away those barriers. So if your student is um, verbal, they are able to get their own items, you don't want to add that extra skill to them or that extra step. You want them to keep that skill. So another way you can use it is tacting items or identifying items around the house. I've had parents that labeled their clocks, different things around the house, the TV, toys. And it was ways for the student to like, hey, what is it? Oh, it's a book. Nice job, buddy. So different things like that. You can start having them identify around the house different items that they see throughout the day. A big one that I like is spend a little bit of time every day reading to your kids. If you like, I know it's crazy. We all have crazy lives, but that's one thing that I always promote is just, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, just sit down and read a book with your student. And for VB materials, I love to use picture books. Um, you can go through and, hey, which one's the red shirt? Touch red. Well, show me the bunny. Good. What's the rabbit doing? He's running. So you can do different things like that. So ask them questions about the book. Make them point. Even ask, make them like you stop and have them ask for you to turn the page or show you to turn the page. So it's different things like that that we can kind of incorporate these little bit of skills. Anything would help. And also, when we work at school and you guys do it at home or in different locations, it really helps generalizing those skills. One thing I am going to work on too is sending out some maybe newsletters that give a little bit more information on parts of VB that you could run at home or in the communities. Um, and if you want any other tools with that, you can let me know. You can comment, like, subscribe, email me, whatever you need just to get in contact. And then I can give you some resources that I have. But the biggest thing is just trying to reinforce those skills that we're working on here. And we try to reinforce the skills you're working on at home so we can be. All right, everyone. How you doing? This is Mr. Zach or Zach Dwar from the future. After the video was out, I tried to do something else. I actually got some fan mail here or some letters that people were watching the video, so I just kind of wanted to share something, all right? All right, first one. Oh, this one doesn't have a name, but it says, Dear Zach, thank you for this information. Great, they enjoyed it. I love that. I did not know you could make behavior even more boring. Oh, okay. Somebody thought they were funny. Let's try a different one. All right, a couple more. Here we go. Oh, here's another one. Dear Mr. Zach, don't you have anyone else who can do these videos? I'm starting to see a pattern here. You know what? And there's no names in these signed ones. Well, I got a couple more. Let's check it out here. All right. I'm just going to pull two of these out. I got two left. I'm going to pull them both out. Dear Mr. Zach, I would rather be watching paint dry. Oh, here's a good one. All right, I think this is a good one. Somebody enjoyed it. Dear Zach, your video wasn't that bad. If you like boring stuff. Well, everyone's a critic, huh? Well, I hope you enjoyed our videos, and if you did, just let me know.